I'll have to think about it.
Not either.
See everything.
Makes sense.
We'll have to
Sorry, the
try.
time got away from me there.
Is he going to talk tonight, Charlie?
Welcome all to the Regional 12 Board of Education meeting, August 31st, 2015. Goodbye, August.
Good riddance.
Can we take attendance, please?
Yep.
Anthony Amato,
Here.
Valerie Anderson,
Here.
Alan Brown,
Here.
Gregory Cava is not here.
Dropping his daughter off.
Rebecca Devine, I'm here. Michelle Gora,
Here.
Emily Hibbard,
Yep.
James Hirschfeld,
Yes.
Rose Krantz,
He's not here.
Jennifer Pody, Michael Sinatra,
Here.
Peter Tagley.
Here.
Okay, so Jennifer and Greg are absent. Rose Krantz, I will announce, I've been informed, has resigned from her Board of Education position, so Roxbury is down. She felt she had a conflict that she couldn't overcome, apparently, and so she's gone. She said when she retires, she hopes that she can come back. She volunteered her service, but under her present situation, she can't do it.
So it wasn't us.
Any way we can screw
Is this
Rock?
something you said in the meeting she came to?
What meeting?
One meeting.
Probably people she heard
she
from
would've been
after the
great.
meeting. She had nowhere to go.
Anthony, Rebecca, don't get any ideas?
Informed, and we'll see what Roxbury can do.
Wow.
It's unfortunate. She was very nice.
Yeah, she's great.
I'm so excited.
All right, number two, item 2, opportunity for the public to comment on agenda items. Is there anyone who would like to address this?
Go ahead.
Would you just go over to the podium, please, sir?
You have to go over here, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right.
State your name and town, please.
Yeah, my name is Ed Wainwright. I'm from Bridgewater. I got 3 questions. 2 of them from last time. The first one is, when is the bonding proposal information going to be available? Second one is, when is the business plan going to be available? You must have dates for that by now. Your target.
All right, anything else?
Sure. I want to ask a question about the referendum.
Well, why don't you ask your question, and in the course of our meeting, we will probably address it.
Good. Regarding the referendum, I want to know if the referendum is, what's required to pass the referendum? Is it a simple majority across the region, or does each town have to have a majority?
I will answer that for you. I will tell you we've been advised that it's like a budget vote. The majority of the region-wide, not each town. Each town does not have to pass it individually. That's what we've been informed, and it's my understanding the condition attached to the approval that said otherwise is going to be reversed by the State Board of Education this week.
They're going to reverse it.
Change that condition, yes. We're expecting that to happen this week.
And why is that?
Because it's not correct. The condition they stated is not correct. It's not a fundamental change to the region that requires, apparently, I haven't read it thoroughly, but that's my understanding.
And when is this change going to take place?
I'm not certain of the date, sometime this week. The State Board of Education meeting.
Okay, and regarding the bonding proposal and the business plan?
Yes, I heard your questions. Well, I'm sure they'll be answered during the course of this meeting. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sir, just state your name, your town, please.
I have a couple questions about the Agri-Science Center.
Mr. Cook, just so you understand, this is communications to the board, comment on agenda items. It's not intended to be a dialogue between you and the board, but we'll certainly try to help. We'll get to everything. Go ahead.
The first question is, I would like to know what the procedure was for interviewing the architect and construction manager for the preliminary plans for the project. And my second question was, the articles I read, the architect and construction manager are answering questions as if they will be on board with the project as it moves forward. So my question is, are they on board at this point? If the referendum gets passed, do they become on board? Or is there an interviewing process for the architect and the construction manager after that?
I can tell you the board has not hired a construction manager, and the board has done some work with an architect. I don't believe a final architect has been decided on.
So my first question was, what was that procedure for interviewing for the preliminary architect?
All right, we'll have to get to that during the course of the meeting.
Okay. And then my last question was, what was the cost for that preliminary
We have those numbers.
25.
Costina, do you know any?
Mr. Geeson
I
has the
think it
information.
was, I don't have the exact number with me, but I think it was $40,000 to do this work that we woke up to this point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Seeing no one else, then we'll move on. Item 3 of the agenda, consent agenda. There's 4 separate items on it. Minutes of meetings. Is there anyone who wants to remove anything from the consent agenda? Hearing no one, the consent agenda is approved. Report of Chair. A few things. First, I wanted to welcome tonight our representative, Mr. Arthur O'Neill, who's with us. Representative O'Neill, on behalf of the board, I would like to thank you for all of the efforts that you expended getting the approval from the state for our agri-science STEM application. So I want to say thank you. I have a project for you from the board, if you would.
I hope you like kittens.
Do you have anything you'd like to say?
Stand by that podium. That works best for our camera. Thank you.
Weird. What the hell is this all about?
Thank you very much.
Sitting next
It looks like it might be appropriate since we're in the library. And I appreciate the gift of only less than $100. Check with the ethics people, it has to be less than $100. Thank you very much. Not necessary. If there's anything I can do to help any of the school districts, or either of the school districts, or anyone else in any of the towns with any kind of project trying to get state approval, I'm more than happy to do it. I think that this is a great project and a great change in direction for Region 12 and also for the state of Connecticut to really put some more emphasis on agri-science as a direction for the state of Connecticut. I've always been deeply impressed, and I think anybody who has any contact with the students in Nonawa, with the quality of those students, the quality of the education they're getting, and so I'm hoping that if this project goes forward, that you're going to see the same kinds of results here, and it's going to be a major boom to this region and to the state of Connecticut to have other schools produce students who can perform at the level that I've seen these students perform over the years. It's been a bit of a fall, and I know that you've got a long way to go before this comes to fruition. I guess I see myself as the person who has helped open the door, and then the decision has to be made whether or not to walk through it and go forward with this whole thing. But it certainly looks promising, and if there's anything I can do to help facilitate it at the state level, please contact me. And by the way, there were a lot of people, nobody in the legislature ever gets anything done by themselves. This is a collaborative effort. It requires the cooperation of the Education Committee, cooperation particularly of Representative Cook from Torrington, also of people across both houses in the legislature and the leadership. But everybody believes that this is a good project. This is a good thing that we are doing for the state of Connecticut to create an additional opportunity for agri-science, which really is a magnet school and really is a STEM-oriented kind of program. And so it's something that I think we are all committed to making it go forward at the state level as well. So, as I said, thank you very much. And the job's not over yet, but good start.
Representative O'Neill, if you don't mind, I have a question, and others may too. I don't know if you can stand for a few questions, but if you would, we've had a discussion around this board table about the 80% reimbursement. It's my understanding that it's an 80% reimbursement from the state on any new construction if this were approved and went forward. If you could address that, if that is a matter of fact. And we have been hoping, you mentioned the magnet school, we believe that this is certainly akin or superior to a magnet school, and it might be eligible for a 95% reimbursement. Do you have any information about that you can share with us?
Well, my understanding is that the reimbursement level, as it stands right now, would be at the 80%. We tried to get them to agree to a 95% reimbursement level, and I think that is a possibility. It's not completely out of the question. It would really have been good to have gotten that incorporated into the bill, but choice was to have everything you want versus most of what you want. The old saw about not letting the perfect become the enemy of the good. There is still a possibility that we might be able to move the ball further down the field on that score as far as the reimbursement level is concerned. But I think that people have to work on the assumption that it's going to be 80%. If we can get more, that would be great. And as I say, I think that there's a widespread support for this whole thrust in education. I think everybody understands that this is an important thing, not just for this region, but for the entire state of Connecticut.
Thank you. Just, do you have any idea when that issue might, calendar-wise, might be considered, might come up?
It would have to be in the February session.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Even if we go into special session, it will be to deal with transportation issues and education issues won't be brought, because everybody will want to try to add an issue to the agenda. We might as well be back in regular session.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who has a question? Peter?
I have a question. We have about up till October 5th, is it, where we can publicize, meet with people on this issue, talk
30 days
about
before the referendum, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my question is, suppose we get some real bad vibes from the public, and they give us an opinion that maybe they're not ready for this. And we call you up and we say, you know, we've had such a short time frame to sell this program to the public, which we do. And we say, look, we think we need till May or June to get this program embedded into people's minds, get everything sold. It's a time frame that we're on right now, which is very difficult. What happens? Is there a chance that you can go to the legislature and say, look, we need another 3, 4, 5 months to produce an environment to help this program get passed? What happens to us if we were to call you or call the legislature and say, we need 4 or 5 more months? We can't go to referendum in November.
I would do as much as I could to see to it that you got the time that you think is necessary to carry the project forward. As I said before, I don't think the perfect should be the enemy of the good. I don't think a particular deadline necessarily is a drop-dead deadline. And if it's a good project that people want to make it work, they need a little more time to make it work. It's something to do. But bear in mind that you're now asking for yet another change in the process, which, as I said, I will do whatever I can to try to make it happen. That's what you feel you need.
From past experience, has anything that happened where the legislature said, no, we can't extend you a further time frame?
It does happen. I don't want to encourage you to go down this route.
No.
The board is scheduled to, we have talked about going forward in November.
But, I mean, sometimes we get to the point where someone has been to the well 3 or 4 times asking for extension.
Right, correct.
And when you get to a point where it seems like they're just not able to pull it together, then people start having doubts. But, the Connecticut legislature is the last organization on earth to say to people, oh, you didn't get your work done in time, therefore, you're all done. That would be
the issue. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you again. Moving on. We have this calendar that is largely filled out, but could use a lot more names. My name is not in any of them, but I will be attending meetings in every town and more that I can. So I said I have this travel schedule for the board members that it's mostly filled out, but I'm going to pass it around again and ask everyone to look at it and add their name, those who haven't, if they can. So I'll do that, and it's our response. I think we have a responsibility on this, assuming we're going forward in November, to help sell this, to help put this forward. So I'm going to pass this around. If you'll please take a look at it. I'll pass it this way. Thank you. I also want to, Peter?
I have a question. I looked at that, and I've been involved, having spent 10 years previously on the board on various issues and marketing the issue. My question to you is, Are you going to plan some town meetings with the three towns to bring forth this whole issue in town hall or in the school
Yes.
itself?
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't see that on here. So.
Yeah, all right.
Still planning.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. I just wanted to note that in the Cave Journal, Region 12 was on the front page, an article about spotlighting best practices, using Chromebooks as a one-on-one tool for students in grades 3 through 12. So that was good news. I wanted to comment on the, I don't know if Don O'Leary is here, but the entrance sign at the middle high school building has been repaired, which he said it would be after July 1st, and it looks a lot better than it is. So I want to thank him for that. All right, I guess that's all I have. I'll move on to the superintendent's report, 5.1.
Yeah, great. Good evening, everyone. I do want to let you know that we've had 3 days of school with the students. It has been wonderful. The staff, the bus drivers, the custodians, the administrators, the teachers, the paraprofessionals, everyone has really come together to make it a remarkable, smooth beginning of the school, so I want to thank them. We had on Monday our convocation. We had a wonderful speaker, Joyce Salzman, who did a talk on laughter and the benefits of laughter, and I think it really got everyone off to a good start. Michelle Gora was there, so I thank you, Michelle, for coming. It was a wonderful morning, so things are good. I have for you the enrollment. I don't know if it's separate, but I'll just tell you. The enrollment is currently 53 students in Burnham, 77 in Booth Free, 159 in WPS. That includes 42 students in Reach and 439 students in Chapag, which is a total enrollment right now of 728 students in the region. So you have that, and we keep taking them every other day. And then, of course, October 1st is the date that the enrollment goes to the state, and that's your official enrollment in the state of Connecticut.
Okay, Michael?
Pat, could you tell us numbers of Sherman students in there?
I cannot. Do you know, Bob?
Didn't bring with me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
My son said that.
Even the next meeting we find, I'm just kind of
we
curious.
we need an email.
I've heard
tomorrow.
anecdotally that it went up. I don't know if
I
that's
did
true.
in the freshman class because I think Ethan said there was 5. But
We'll get you the, we
From
didn't
Sherman
do
than last
the
year?
full breakout of
From
everything,
Sherman?
but it's,
Last year we had 19, 9, 10, 11, 12. So usually it's around 5 or 6. But we'll give it to you tomorrow. We'll email it to you.
Great. And the other question I had was out-of-district enrollment, whether we had any out-of-district students enroll. I've heard again anecdotally that we have.
We have a couple here and there. We'll get you all of that tomorrow.
I know there's 3 New Milford students in the 6th grade that are new this.
Somebody saying something there?
We don't have
our speakers up again,
do we?
No. She said that there's a few New Milford students in the 6th grade this year at Chapag. That's what was said. All right.
And there are 2 new Burnham students from Brookfield.
They're moving to Burnham in October 1st, I think. So there are a couple. I'll get you those numbers. We'll get you all of those numbers. We'll give it to you tomorrow, and we'll have it officially at the next board meeting also.
Thank you.
All right. Yes?
Well, I was also wondering if you happen to know off the top of your head how these numbers compare to what we were expecting, our predictions. Are we up, down,
it's all
same?
on the analysis, you'll get it tomorrow.
Okay.
We are,
Okay.
we'll do that from now on. We didn't think to do that. Analysis compared to product.
I just checked the high school numbers. They're maybe one off of what product had, so
Okay.
Good.
They're very
just
close.
as a data point.
Good. That's really good.
Okay. We also will give you the
Can
amount
I-
of students who are here from staff, because that's also a number.
I'm sorry, we're lost way down here. Can I just ask, do you have, how many sections do we have of each grade, do you know offhand, in
Yes.
Burnham?
Burnham, we have one of each, except the K1 is combined.
Right.
Okay?
How many kids in that?
That's 13 students.
13 combined.
Right, and the 7 children in kindergarten are all boys.
And I have it in front of me. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said the 7 students in kindergarten in Burnham are all boys.
Man.
Wow. So there are 10 boys in that class and 3 girls. And then there's 1 of each. Booth free, 1 class of each.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-K, there are 3 classes now, remember? We added the class, there's 3 reaches there, and that's doing beautifully. We have an excellent teacher. And there are 2 groups in 4th grade. That is the only elementary class that has 2 classes. And that is because there really were an inordinate amount of students with special needs in that class. So in 3rd grade, we divided them.
Oh, it's 3rd or 4th?
They're in 4th now, but we divided them last year in 3rd and in 4th.
Gotcha.
So it's like a 12-12?
Right.
Okay.
And then Chapag, it's hard to say, you know. We don't really break it up into classes that way.
All right, anything else?
I don't know if they're done with that.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was part of our packet here.
I do want to share some news about the SBAC. I'm not giving a full report on the scores. The SBAC, for those of you who are new, is the Smarter Balanced Assessment, and those are what Connecticut uses and we use to assess our students grades 3 to 8 and in grade 11. Takes over for the CMTs and the CAPT. Last year, a year previous, we had a field test, and this past spring, we had the real deal. And it's been in the paper, but you can, I'm not going to give you all of the scores, but I'm just going to give you some of the highlights. Teresa DeBrito will do a report at the September 28th, and she'll compare DERGs and all of that kind of stuff. But in the ELA, we had some incredible scores. Our 5th grade, our 7th grade, and our 11th grade did outstanding. I think you're going to find that many of those grades are close, if not first in the DERG. Chapag did unbelievably well, and that is a testament to the staff, to the administrators, to those who rewrote the curriculum so they're embedded with the Common Core state standards. It is a commitment from the students who took it as part of the core values and guiding beliefs in answering a call to citizenship. And they, in the 11th grade, 85.7% of our students exceeded or met the state standard, and you're going to find that that's going to be very, very, very high. So those of us who like to talk about first in the DERG and all these great test scores, you're going to have that for Chapag, and I am really very, very proud of everyone. Our math, and let me just say, the average in the ELA for the state was 73.0. The math average was 52.4. We also got some good results, not as good because you will see in the state of Connecticut, we are not as ready in our math curriculum for the SBAC and the standards as we need to be, and we knew that. The math has really changed. The math curriculum has gone down. And I say that, I mean things that were taught in 9th grade are now taught in 7th and 8th grade. The 3rd grade curriculum was really new and different, but we've gotten some good results, and I think you will be happy when you see them. We still have a lot to do. I'm not going to tell you if these scores are, the be-all and the end-all, but I think when we are compared to the rest of the state, it will show that we have taken the initiatives with fidelity and purpose, and people are working very, very hard to get our kids to be where we know they can be. So I really am very excited about that.
That's a great job. Thank you. It's excellent news.
And so then I'll just go on to our appointments. We did have
Excuse me, Pat?
Yes.
Can I just ask a quick question about that? I understand that the state has made some testing changes for this current year as far as SBAC is concerned? I know for 11th grade.
11th grade.
Is that the only grade that's being affected?
The only grade that's being affected as far as we know.
Okay.
It's a little iffy right now because we were told by the governor it's going to be the SAT, but we have not gotten that official word yet from the commissioner. So, who just changed, exactly. So we are going full force as if it is the SAT. I am working with Mrs. Gallo, Mr. Dyer, Mrs. Ferreira to make sure that the kids are prepared. So we're assuming that's the way it's going to be, and then the rest of the grades will be the same. Okay, so appointments. We have Jennifer Rotunda. She's a literacy tutor at WPS. Ashley Kirk is a music teacher at the 3 Elementary. I've already told her, if you need anything, you let me know. We don't want to lose you. You're going to be great. You're going to love it here.
Where's she from?
She's new. She's a new teacher. She's very, very passionate. You're going to love her. Amanda Farron is a paraprofessional at Food Free. Karen Olson is a secretary at Chapag. She replaces Pat Fraley, thank you, who's retired July 31st. And John Spear is a business teacher at Chapag. And then we have some resignations. We had Robin DeCaro of Para at Burnham. Sydney Santiago was the front entrance security, so we're looking for someone in the afternoon. And Corin Santavari is the business teacher at Chapag. She went elsewhere. And then Doug Winkle is on a leave of absence. So that, I believe, is my report.
Okay. Are there any questions? Can you tell me what the leave of absence is about?
What, Mr. Winkle?
Yes.
We could talk about it personal.
Okay.
Another time.
Anyone else? All right. Then moving on to committee reports. Mr. Amato, of the Agri-Science Steering Committee. Do you have anything to report?
So we met twice now as a committee. The meeting of the minutes of the second meeting will be published probably tomorrow, as soon as I hit the send button. But we've covered a lot of ground just trying to just get all of the activities that all the various groups, the publicity committee, and various folks in the community have been working on and try to get it all piled up in one place so we could at least get a good look at it, which we did. Now we're starting to refine those work efforts to just make sure that everybody is not cross-purposed in terms of walking out with message A versus message B and trying to do that. And also really sit back and define what is the message, what is the question that we're actually trying to answer. Because there's been some debate about, what that message is. So it's there are a lot of different things to talk about with the program, and the list is long, and there's not enough time to talk about everything in every communication. So it's really, if we look at the top priorities, what are those as a group, and that's all reflected in the minutes. So that's really what we've been up to right now, and now we're getting to the next meeting, which is going to get more, I'd say, more tactical and sort of checking things to make sure things are getting done. And as we move through this, we've got about 30 days or so before we really need to have all this to a point which members of the community can pretty much continue on into the month of October as we head towards referendum. So that's really a high level of what we've been up to. I did share with the board demographics of our catchment area, as well as application statistics from Nonawag. So I don't know if, Jim, if it's open for questions. Did anybody have any questions? Or I think it was rather straightforward data, but still. No questions? Okay, great. Any other questions on anything else regarding the committee?
I know there's a question out there with regard to a business plan. Do you have any ideas on that?
So we did talk about the business plan. I would say that I wouldn't expect to see a business plan come together until middle of the month.
Of this month?
Of September. Reason being, we're being paced by big things that are big chunks. Obviously, the enrollment numbers that we're working on with the district in terms of looking at what those could be, along with Bill Davenport from Nonawag. Then you've got the staffing plan, and Kim Gallo and team have gone, I think they're on their third iteration as we go through it and make sure that questions are being answered. And then the bonding profile. And the bonding profile is really paced behind O&G's estimate of the state reimbursement numbers. They're actively working on that right now. So once we get the state reimbursement numbers, then we have understanding what the bonding profile is going to look like. And then we can go to Webster, et cetera, et cetera. So, Bob, I think September 10th is your expectation to get that back?
My expectation, if not sooner.
And what is that?
The estimate. Good, Bob.
To get the scenarios on the bonding and how it's going to shake out over the life of the project. Right now, as Anthony said, we're waiting, and it's dependent on us getting this information from ONG and KBA as to the eligible versus non-eligible costs and splitting that out. Once we have that, we can get it looked at in a variety of ways.
All right.
But a lot of this work, I think we're on number 3.
Yes.
And I think we'll meet hopefully Thursday again.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
We're going to try to meet on Thursday. So there's a pecking order here, right, of a priority of sequential information that we're going to need to look at. It may cause us to have to go back and revisit the enrollment numbers, as we see how it all settles out. But so I would say, sometime mid-month before we get our first real look at the numbers.
Okay. Yes, Valerie.
A couple of questions. How does the business plan differ from the ed specs? Are they one and the same?
You have to help me out since my learning curve here. What's in the what do you?
The ed specs are how we're going to fit out the building, how many rooms, how many chairs, how many desks.
Right.
What's going to be in the building. That's not what you're really dealing with at this point, although.
We already sent that off to Castle Booze, and then they came to this.
Use that to formulate the
plans.
Building and the profile of the building and those costs. So
okay.
They're married together.
But a business plan would be the organization of going forward, not necessarily what happens under the roof.
Correct. To get the project approved by the public, making the case to get it approved.
Right.
Okay.
So we're looking, Valerie, at so many students you anticipate coming into the program. Those would be students from out of district, coupled with students that are within the district, right? Make up the load or demand on the program. The staffing to include any additional or incremental staffing that we need at the core high school, right? Supplies, expenses, utilities, all the usual suspects when you're putting together a program like this, to look at what the operating costs are.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
And then we got to look at the bond debt servicing and then see what it looks like to the bottom line.
Okay. And on our agenda tonight in new business, we're to vote on the project. That is the concept, or are we talking about $39.5 million? How specific is this vote going to be? Because it sounds like we still have some questions out there.
Well, Val, how about if we wait till we get to that point?
Well, I just want to know if we're ready to get to that point, and I guess
we're going to be there, and we'll either decide to go forward or not.
Facilities is different.
We're accepting a report, a recommendation, or are we putting out the entire, this is the referendum and this is when it's going to be?
The board will decide what it's going to do. There's nothing being forced on the board.
Okay. So we're just approving the recommendation of the Facilities Committee with this motion?
That's what's printed on the agenda, yes.
Okay. Tony, thanks for this hard work that you're doing.
There will be an opportunity, right, post-referendum, where the design of the actual facility is going to be value engineered. So, and We'll go through the RFP process, so there will be time for all that to happen. But we need to kind of figure out what box we're playing in, right? And that's the iterations that we've been going through on the design side. So I think this is the third or fourth, 3.5 iteration on the design to get it to lock in, and that's what we're going to be talking about later on.
Okay,
So.
terrific. Once again, thanks.
You're welcome. Jim, with that, I'm
All right. Tony, there was a question about the hiring of Castle Blues. Bob, do you know that it's just somebody that the board has been using? How is it that they came to do this project?
I think we spoke with 2 or 3 firms, and that firm is the firm that we ended up choosing to pull this together on a conceptual basis.
Okay.
Once we get past the conceptual basis and a successful referendum, that's when you have to go through once again and choose your final architect for this and put all the drawings together. But you're in a conceptual state right now.
But the board chose them.
Right.
That's the answer. All right. Is there anything else for Tony? No. Anthony, excuse me.
okay.
All right. Education, Michelle, any?
Our next meeting is September 28th, and Teresa DeBrito will be presenting an in-depth analysis of all of our scores, and I think that is the main presentation, but we will probably have some sort of beginning of the year updates as well, whether it's enrollment or things that are happening at that time. And we have not set the schedule for the rest of the year. If there's anything that you would like to learn about or know about that's happening in our schools, if you'd like to see a presentation on one of our programs or you have questions, please email that to me, because I will be meeting with Teresa this month to put together a list of, or to work on, because
Agenda for this season.
Agenda for the season, which always gets tweaked as we have snow days and other things come up, but at least that way I'll have a sense of the things that the board is interested in hearing about.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Michelle? Education Connection, we don't have a chair. For anyone who may, I know, Michelle, you had done it.
I actually just responded. I'm going to the first meeting. It's Thursday.
Okay.
I would love for somebody else to do it. It's wonderful program.
They're up in Litchfield. And
Yeah.
they meet once a month. They have a dinner meeting, and there's discussions, and they're very helpful to all the districts, including ours.
Yeah, no, it's
So if anyone's interested,
it's very
in that,
informative
let me know.
and
Free dinner.
easy. It's easy to do. I would love for someone else to do it though.
Okay. Well, Greg is not here. I don't know if there's anyone from Facilities Committee.
I am.
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. The bulk of the facilities meeting from last Thursday is centered on the item 9.2 under new business. Do you want to
We'll wait
start
for
talking
that.
about
No, we'll wait to get there.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. Finance, Valerie, anything?
No, we have not met yet.
All right. Long-range planning, Mr. Brown.
We haven't met yet.
All right. There are no present negotiations. And Michelle, anything on policy? Yes, I see we have a second reading policy for tonight.
Yes. So we had a meeting tonight. Also, I met over the summer with Teresa, and who works with the policy committee, and we did some housekeeping. Sue Haverly did a wonderful job of putting together all of our audit information into a spreadsheet, because we've been going through a lot of the second phase of the audit. We finished the first phase. So we worked on some more policies tonight, and hopefully in future meetings we'll be seeing these policies come through. We have about 30 more in the second phase of the audit to complete. And we were talking about in our policy committee meeting, laws are continually changing as well. So as we're trying to do housekeeping, we have to address things as they come up. So we'll just continue.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask Michelle a question?
Yes.
No?
I'm sorry.
Is there anything that we need to change as we approach the agri-science STEM in our policies and procedures?
There are probably quite a few things. That little language sprinkled all throughout the hundreds of policies that say something about program or graduation requirements or facilities. So we'll just have to go through and find any inconsistencies, and at least we'll have a couple of years to do that.
Okay, thank you. Anything about keeping horses on property, that sort of thing?
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but that will keep us busy for a good long time.
Glucogen injection for horses.
Yeah. Seriously.
All right. Is there anything else from Michelle?
No.
All right. Then moving on to one second reading policy 3323 business soliciting prices. Michelle.
Yes. So this policy was brought before you at the last board meeting, and unfortunately I was not there, so I apologize about that. But I need to explain something. Just so if everyone can first find it, this was the policy about soliciting bids, and the board approved increasing the minimum requirements that would trigger a bidding process. Those numbers had not been changed in many years, and
from what to what?
From 6,000 to 15,000 for some things, and then is one procedure, and then from 15 to 35 is another procedure. Anyway, so those had not been changed since 2007, and the threshold was too low. The bidding process was being triggered more often than it was really intended to. But what I need to explain is a slight procedural issue. The actual piece of paper that you had in front of you last month was technically our regulation, which was in the book. It was in the index. It appeared in before the policy, which is not how it's supposed to happen. So technically, you were looking at our regulation, but it does not read very differently from our policy. The language on the bidding part is the same. Actually, the regulation had more language about what to do once a bid has been received. It talks about opening the envelope and who will be present, all those kinds of things. Those aren't actually in our policy. That's part of our regulation, and none of that is changed. So I would like to go forward as a second reading with this policy, even though technically the piece of paper that you had in front of you was a regulation. The two are very, very closely linked, and it's the numbers is all that was. It's only the numbers that was being proposed to be changed.
Well, I'm not
Does
sure
that make
myself.
sense?
Well, yes, it makes sense, and I understand your position. But if the board approved something that was in front of it and it was the wrong thing, maybe the better thing to do is to approve it for first reading tonight and bring it back and get it done the right way.
So moved.
Second.
Well, is there a motion to approve it for a first reading?
First reading.
Any other? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, so it is approved for a first reading
All right.
tonight. Thank you.
All right.
Michelle.
Let's try, Michelle.
It's safe.
All right, new one.
It's safe.
Sorry, 9-1, superintendent's goals for 2015-16.
Yes. You all received the goals. I had sent a draft and I didn't hear from anyone. So I'll just go through them quickly. And basically, the process we've been following is I give my goals. Anyone who has anything they want to add, we can add to it. And then I usually give an update in January, and then I have a mid-year eval, and then in June. So you'll see that a lot of these goals are very similar to last year's goals because we're continuing to work on the things that we're working on. So number one is the most important right now to plan and promote a referendum that supports the Chappaq Valley Regional Agri-Science STEM Academy. So I think that's really important. Two is to continue the marketing of the region and the districts. And also we are working on the logo and the slogan for the region. It's a little slower than I like, but we're getting a lot of input, so I think that's a good thing. Continuing with the goal number one for the board, which is designing and implementing a rigorous and engaging curriculum, really with a lot of concentration this year on science and mathematics. We really need to move to get those curriculums done and teachers comfortable teaching them and students comfortable learning not only a new curriculum, but just a different way, more critical thinking, problem solving, delving deeper, all of those things. And just so you know, I wanted you to, the strategic plan, which the board worked on before I got here, goes till 2017. So next year, one of my goals will be to redo the strategic plan with the board. Okay, and that will bring in community members, et cetera, et cetera. But I think this year we have too much going on with the agri-science STEM. But next year we will rewrite and we'll work on a 5-year strategic plan, which hopefully will encompass the whole agri-science program. Number 4, really important, to increase participation in advanced placement and examinations, to develop a plan for the new grade 11 assessments in the SAT, and to really bring in some professional development for the staff to get the kids more comfortable, and there are many different ways we're going to do that. Number 5, develop a comprehensive plan for K-5. We really have to look at that because we do have some very small classes coming up, so that's something we have to work on. Number 6, to continue to build a strong leadership team, continue to work with the Chapag staff that's done a great job. We're hoping very soon we'll get the NEASC report. So we're hoping that'll be a really good, positive driver to get positive votes out there if we have a great report, and I'm really hoping we will. Number 7 is the continuation of the teacher evaluation program and the administrator evaluation program. We're getting better at it. We're not great at it yet. We're still calibrating. What does that mean? That means when I go into a teacher's classroom and I mark them as a developing teacher, Kim and Laurie and Teresa and everybody else should see the same thing. Say, oh yeah, that's developing. Somebody shouldn't say oh, that person's exceeding or proficient. Okay, so we should have the same strategies in mind so that when we see an excellent teacher, we know that that person is an excellent teacher. Number 8, we've done a great job, but there's still a lot to do. Technology keeps changing. So we have a lot going on there. And just to give a shout out, I don't know if you've seen, Karen Files has done a great job with the cameras. Mm-hmm. We're working on the sounds. We still have a little issue there, but the cameras, we have, how many, 3? 4 cameras, and we also have Leah Principe back there, who is our, if you remember in last year's budget, we hired somebody for 1 day a week to help us. So she is a former Bethel High School graduate, now at WestCon in editing and film, and she's working with us and helping with editing and doing a great job. So we're really excited about that. So Welcome. This is really cool stuff going on here.
Good.
9, we're still working on that alumni. They're a hard nut to crack, but we have the right person on it. And the other thing we're working on is to promote college acceptances and alumni in the community. I was thinking about doing around Thanksgiving, like a brochure to send home, like almost what we do in May, that says, you know, thank you for our alumni, and just go through everything that they're doing and where they are, so that people could see where our kids are getting into colleges, because I think people have questions about that. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to try to do that, if we can get that together. Karen, as you know, is a new administrator, and she's working on a public outreach and communication plan, so that I think we're really good at communication, but I think we could be even better if we had a better plan on who's doing what and how we're doing it and how we're reaching the different parts of the community. So I'm excited about that. The TV station's still going on. We're doing a lot of shows next week. Still working with the Board of Ed to grow professionally. I think that's important, especially as new members come on. And then, as always, to present a budget that is effective and responsible and that provides kids with the best education they can get, but also really remembers that, you know, we do have taxpayers and they expect us to be efficient and effective. So those are my goals.
All right. Thank you. Is there any questions for the superintendent at this time? Good luck.
That's good.
Thank you.
Emily?
Anthony.
Oh, Anthony, I'm sorry.
Just from a process standpoint, so Pat, if we have any particulars or follow-up on that, when or how do we talk to you about that?
About the goals or about progress?
About the goals themselves.
If you want to send me some information, I can happily, put it in here if I think I should tweak or whatever, and then resend it to everyone. I have no problem doing that as long as I know I can do it.
Or make an appointment with the superintendent on time.
You could do that too.
Either way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any help is always appreciated. These are not in, stone. It's definitely a, move forward as you can, but there are a lot of people who help me to achieve these goals. So that's important.
All right. Thank you. Any? No one else. All right. 9.2, Agri-Science Update. To consider, and if appropriate, to accept the recommendation of the Facilities Committee for the Agri-Science Project and the Chippewa Science Lab renovations, and to prepare documentation and motions for a tentative referendum on November 10, 2015. Dr. Costino.
Well, I am going to just make sure that you all have the two handouts that I think we have, right? If you don't have copies, Debbie will be happy to hand them to you. They were sent in your packets. But and then we also have for the audience. And I'm going to hand this over right now to Rebecca, who is here representing the Facilities Committee, and then I'll put in my 2 cents if we need it.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so last Thursday, Casa Blues did a presentation to the Facilities Committee, and the immediate good news is that we revisited the estimate that was presented on August 17th, and you'll see from the handouts that the new estimate actually is a drop. The initial estimate on the 17th was $45 million plus change. We're now down to just under $39.5 million. We spent quite a bit of time talking about what those changes were. We wanted to make sure that we understood that we weren't removing anything that shouldn't be removed. And Bob did a really nice job. This is the 4th handout in the packet of putting it all on a nice single piece of paper, and that's also what you just got handed. It shows you the original estimates, the final estimates, and the changes. And we have at the bottom an explanation of the changes. As you can see, there was, in the original estimate, an assumption regarding building out all of the athletic fields, and that was a mistake. So they made an adjustment, and that was a relatively significant one of over $2.5 million. The equine facility, we have a reduction to it. That is not going to impact the program at all. The original estimated equine facility was actually going to be overbuilt for what our needs would be. So this is a wonderful adjustment, and there's no impact to the program at all. The next 2 lines are really soft costs, and their reduction is an immediate result of the 2 lines above them going down, and contingencies and escalation as well. So that puts us down over $6 million to under $40 million to $39,491,387.
And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Peter.
I don't know what you expect tonight on 9.2.
I don't expect anything. The board will do what it does. Is there anything else? Mallory?
Well, I don't know if Peter was finished, but
So you're looking for an up or down vote?
Peter, anybody can make a motion. I can't control that. If they do, they do. And then it's seconded, we move on.
Why would we need to make a motion?
I'm not in charge here.
But the motion
It's
is
facilitating the
suggesting.
meeting.
So you want a motion basically
I didn't say that.
to repeat this, correct?
I didn't say I wanted a
You didn't say
motion.
you
This is
wanted.
an item on the agenda, and the board will do with it what it deems appropriate.
But the wording is there, and so I think the question is fair to say, how
Is there?
specific would the motion be? Does it include these costs, et cetera? But I think that's where you're going. You want
could
something
say,
specific.
if you wanted to, someone wanted to move this at the numbers presented to us, the
Okay.
39.5.
Could I ask Rebecca a question, though, about her presentation just now? And thanks for, our new members are incredibly busy, and this is wonderful. When you talk about the site work coming down 2.6 million, 2.7 million, which is great, was based on building out all athletic fields. What was their assumption to begin with they were going to redo all of our playing fields, or what are we now not going to be getting?
They didn't believe that they were there, that they needed to be built out. And Bob, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
And
the site engineer took the look at the big picture of it and made an assumption that they were going to have to recreate what was in essence playing fields. And didn't understand there was just a reorientation of some of the fields and just I'm going to miss the word, but they had to fill out one of the far fields with some
riprap.
Yeah,
that's
and
right.
what they
damp.
assumed it was a build out of everything from ground zero, as opposed to just rearrangement of what we already owned. And so they had too many acres in their new ground to be ground up and made into fields.
So they went from 37.6 acres to 34.
Once they all sat down and got a better understanding of what we already had, they realized they had overestimated the cost to begin with on the 17th.
That's great. One more question, though, having to do with the fields, the septic fields. So these costs don't really include, or do they? They must include septic.
There is an allowance within their work to put in a septic field. What it hinges on is when we get to that point where a referendum is passed, you bring plans to the state. Are they going to require us to do it or not? But there's enough money to do it on the assumption we're going to have to do it.
Is that within the contingencies or with the site work?
It's part of the site work, I believe.
So the 8 million would include that. Yeah. Okay, fine. I'm glad that's part of it. And hopefully not something we have to do.
Peter?
Right.
Well, I would like to comment on this statement. One of the things we learned in the last referendum was by coupling the science labs to the new primary school, voters who may be inclined to vote for the science labs but were against the primary school, in essence, when they voted one down, they voted the other down. It is my belief that could happen again. I'm not saying it will, but we're very early in the process. We'll know better once we get into the communities. And my belief is that this should be an A and B, because if we lose the science labs the second time, you may never see them fixed again. So I think we should have a discussion. I want to listen to board members. We lost the science labs, the last project, because nobody wanted to decouple. And I really believe if you don't decouple this, you have a 50% chance of losing the science labs permanently.
Colin?
Since I haven't been able to go to facilities committee meetings lately, where is the information about the science lab that couples with this?
It's renovations.
It's in there.
The science, if you look at the conceptual design cost estimate, there's a couple of lines that reflect
3.6.
We've got renovations, but we also have abatement.
Yes.
And the other thing that we have to consider, and Peter, I'm not saying one way or the other regarding the language of the vote. I'm talking at this point about the issue of the money.
Okay.
The money that is reflected in here for the science buildings, for the science labs, takes into consideration that it's being done as part of a single bond and as a single project. And if we went to break it out, those numbers could be impacted significantly. So that's something that we have to take into consideration when we are discussing how we want to move forward with it.
Alan?
Yeah, I think that's vital because I agree with Peter. I was concerned before about the last coupling, but in this case, I think that our biggest fear is that we'll get one and not the other, of course, which is why we try to couple in the first place. But I think in this case, it's very tightly connected. And we have to make that tight connection very clear to our voters so that it won't appear to be an arbitrary or a coincidental coupling. Because, especially, they go hand in hand as far as the population of the students using it will make it more worthwhile to pass the science labs. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, but still I want to make sure we're clear on it. The population will increase, and therefore the demand on the labs will be more relevant. And on top of that, if we don't have the science labs, then our STEM program and our agri-science program won't be as, it's not what won't be possible, but it will be crippled. And therefore, it's a circle we really have to be clear about, because in as much as I would tend towards decoupling them, I don't think it is as safe a bet this time to decouple, because one without the other would make us have to go through this over and over again until we finally get them both. Or until we give up and actually don't do one and we're back at square one where we were 18 months ago, which is a scary place to be. So I just really want to caution us all to really focus on explaining why they are part and parcel.
Michael.
I agree with Alan. I think that decoupling might be dangerous for a number of reasons. But I think Peter's point is a good one in that we've been focusing so much of our effort in terms of communication on the agri-science program. I think we need to spend a little bit of time in our communication also on the science lab renovation. And I think, Alan, you brought up one good point, why we need to move forward with the renovation. But we have many good points. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Cosentino, but I think in the last NEASC eval, that was one of the biggest strikes against Chapag. So even if we did nothing, if we never opened the agri-science program, we need to make this change in order to ensure a quality science education for our students, to ensure that a safe experience for our students. We need to make this change. And I think we need to communicate that.
Thank you, Peter. Michael. Michelle?
I agree. For all of those reasons, I think they're very closely linked, curriculum, building wise. And I believe in one of the meetings I was in last week, there is even a chance that a little bit of that construction might be reimbursed at a higher rate because of the agri-science. So running them together also could save us money. So it's not just program and students, but it also makes more sense financially to run the projects together.
Alan?
And speaking of money, this kind of brings me back to my first issue with this agenda item. Can we be clear on what we're, if anything, accepting? I mean, I glanced over at Anthony because I don't think we can accept this figure and actually vote on this figure because it's not firm yet, is it?
I think, if I can, and
yes, please.
Anybody jump in. When you think about what we talked about before and what the batting order is to be able to get to a point where I think where we think we might be now, and I don't think we are, which is to actually vote on sending something to referendum, a particular number. But we've got to stop. We've got to stop a ball or two from moving in this multivariable equation. So I think what we're saying right now is we've been through a number of iterations on the building. We could probably continue to tweak this ad infinitum, and keep moving it around. But we've got to somehow stop this and saying we believe this is a good place to move to the next gate in the process. And the next gate in the process is to stop this ball from moving and say, okay, it's done for the moment. Let's get O&G to get what percentage of this figure is going to be reimbursable. We keep moving the design. We'll never get to that number. We'll never get to the bond, right? So we're saying, remember, we're going to have an opportunity to come back and revisit all of this post-referendum, successful referendum. So at the moment, do we feel like we are in the right box? Is it more of the right design than less of the right design kind of thing, Alan? And I think if we're in agreement, then we can move this process forward. Otherwise, we're going to run out of time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and I think that the word estimate is all over here, which is important, and it's not over here. And so we just have to, whoever makes the motion should refer to this as a recommended. So that you can make the motion, maybe a recommended estimate.
Right. So once we get to the referendum, and once we get the economics done, and we get it all laid out on the table, then I think that would be the appropriate time to talk about the referendum. Do we split? And the language of the referendum itself? And right now,
we're just saying this is our project. Yeah.
Correct.
Michelle.
I would like to move that we approve this final estimate of $39,491,387, as the project to move forward.
I'd second that.
So
Can I make a friendly amendment?
I just thought we just said the opposite.
Well, no.
Well, it's been moved and seconded, so it's open for discussion. Alan?
I just want to make sure we're not in any way limiting ourselves by putting the dollar figure in there, or should we have to add the word scope of the project as estimated at this value?
Well, yeah.
If we're not, then we're fine.
Yeah.
Anthony?
I think Alan's suggestion of just providing, because something may change between now and whenever, and we don't want to be so precise with the number. So, Alan, I agree with your suggestion.
So maybe if you, as opposed to the
39.5?
dollar figure, no, I'm just saying as opposed to the dollar figure, saying, the estimated blah, 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 39.5 cost, which
As
is
estimated.
as estimated for the scope of the project as recommended by the facilities committee. How's that? Because it's the scope we're talking about. What we're really approving is the scope.
Right.
Can you say that again?
Hold on. Are all prior motions
that?
withdrawn? Are all prior motions withdrawn?
Well, can I?
Say yours again.
Yes.
Well, I just kept it simple because.
But they're asking not to be tied to a number.
Well, but I feel
you
like
have
we
to.
need to tie to a number, and there's nothing that we're saying that we can't undo.
I think, Michelle, I think we're all in agreement. I think, but if we go down to the second decimal place, if 1 penny moves, then we've got to go, right? We've got to revisit the referendum. So I think what we're saying is just we put a qualifier in there, and we could put in a number, but say this number is an estimate, it's an approximation, and we need to stay true to that number within reason. I don't know what the right, Alan, I'm looking to you we can help work the right words, but we just need
whatever you said,
a little
everyone say
bit of-
approximately 39 million as opposed to not approximately and 39.5
Yes.
You have to come up with a concrete number.
I was just gonna say
because bond council's going to look for a number that the board has authorized to go forward.
Yeah,
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
No, I understand, but we need a number to get to bond council
When-
as opposed to something nebulous. If it changes again, we have to come back with it.
Okay, so do we have an opportunity to come back before we go to bond council and dial it into the penny?
Yeah.
I would suggest we wait and get as close to whenever
This is the number
that date is.
got. This is the latest.
But it even says say next to it. There's a big say right there.
Well, I was looking at this piece of paper.
And that's what, I mean, as I said, I just don't want to in any way handicap us. But if
How are you going to change the number?
I think if you say approximately that number, you're okay. But we have to, I think Anthony said it beautifully, unless we get a number tonight, we can't move forward. We can't,
need a number.
and everybody wants to meet. They want to know the selectmen, the Board of Finance. We can't go forward
Let
without.
me, I'll, just for the sake of clarity here, I'm not suggesting that the design is in any way, shape, or form going to move again or subject to change.
I understand.
What I'm trying to protect ourselves against is like just an administrative hiccup where O&G comes back and says, we did the math and we were off by a penny, and all of a sudden we find ourselves having to revisit. I think that's what Alan was getting at, but the design, for all intents and purposes in my mind, is pretty much locked down at this point, so we can move the process forward.
Rebecca?
When we had the facilities committee meeting last week, that was simply the question that we were knocking around is what are we looking to come out of with this? You know, where are we at in this process? And what we were looking at is, as Anthony said, the next gate, the next step in the process. So what we did was we made it, and if you look in the minutes from that meeting, we moved to recommend to the board the adoption of the proposed conceptual design and cost estimate attached. The two of them are married together. We're not asking the board to consider the money separately from the design. We're looking at this as a whole, part and parcel, stake in the ground step forward. If the design changes, if the cost estimate changes, then we have to revisit it because things happen, but we need to have a number, we need to have some kind of a stake in the ground to move forward to next steps. That was the feeling of the facilities committee. Jim?
Valerie?
Well, I would suggest, what is our drop-dead time to set a number?
No.
Is today the
Today.
drop-dead time?
Today.
So that we can't take an estimate. We can't take a recommendation. What I was going to say is that the board should approve the recommendation of the facilities committee that these are the design and cost estimates. That would be great. But But if we have to set a referendum today?
No.
All right, that's my question. What is our drop-dead meeting time to set the actual amount for the referendum?
October 5th is the public hearing.
Okay, so prior to that, so we have time. Then we should just make this a motion to accept the recommendation of the Facilities Committee for design and estimated costs. And that's it. And that's how the motion should be. It shouldn't be, this is what we're actually going to do.
Do we need to say,
I mean, Valerie just said it perfectly, but I mean, it's Michelle's motion, all right?
I'm good with that.
So then
Whose
there's
motion is it? Is
wiggle
it
room.
Valerie's motion? Are you withdrawing your prior motion? Or we'll just reformulate. It's Michelle's motion was to approve.
It was the same intent, so it doesn't matter to me. Whatever is
I
easier.
think we're
for
accepting the
Debbie to record.
Facility Committee recommendation.
Recommendation to approve the conceptual design cost estimate and the design plan.
Right.
That's the motion. Is there a second?
wait, do we need to have the dollar figure in there or just the words cost estimate?
No, the dollar figure. Well, it's right on there. It's on the concept.
Yeah, we're referencing their recommendation.
Didn't know whether is there a second to that?
Yes, second.
Valerie made the motion.
Michelle made.
You can't second
All
your
right.
motion.
Now, I hate to throw a real monkey wrench in this thing, but I'd like to get your opinion on.
Go ahead.
The issue of a building committee appointed by the chair. Is it worth having, if you could get a building committee together, professional people, a reasonably small group, to look at this before the referendum, or do you think you just go with this unchanged until the referendum between now and then? Do you have any thoughts on that? Certainly, you'd have a building committee after referendum if it passed, and it could be worked again. I understand that. Is there any value in having it done beforehand? Michelle.
I just wanted to let you know, and anyone else who wasn't there, that the design was gone over by a board of advisors to the program. So there were people from all fields, equine, farming, animal science, all fields went over the square footage and the buildings and the grounds and the layout and gave a lot of input and felt that the design was a good design and adequate for the program. So I think if anyone's just concerned that because we're lay people and we're looking at a design, it has been reviewed by advisors. So I feel like a building committee probably still isn't needed until after the referendum.
There is a motion. Peter.
I would agree. I think it's too late right now, between now, referendum, put an established building committee together from builders in the three towns and vet all of this. I went through the new primary schools. We're going to rebuild all new primary schools in each town, and that was months of work when they put that whole group together, about 9 or 10 people. But Michelle is right. You can do this after. I mean, we're putting a number on the table with what we have, and either the people will want it, and we'll sell it, and they'll want it, and we'll know when we go to referendum.
Okay.
Then you put it, if they want it, then we'll put a building committee together.
Valerie?
But yes, we absolutely need a building committee post-successful referendum because we need to invite all the towns together to lock arms on that.
Right.
But we do have a motion.
There is a motion, Anthony.
I won't repeat everything I've heard. I agree with everything I've heard, but just a couple of other points. We did have in the design process, right, effectively Nanawag, program director, represented throughout the design, entire design. So we have a bona fide consultant, qualified consultant, if you will, to help us with the design. And I also believe there was at least one site visit. Were there more? Thank you. So there were 4 site visits to similar ag programs within the state, outside of the state, which also contributed to the final design that we're seeing here. So.
Including the last site visit, which was a visit to a school that just did a very similar renovation for $35 million. So it's very, very much at parity with this project.
All right. There's a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation of the Facilities Committee as put forth tonight. Yes,
So we're not talking about the semantics of exactly what the wording of the referendum is. We're
No.
We're merely moving forward with all of us approving.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss the superintendent's evaluation?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We'll take 7 minutes.